Hi, greetings again, dear lovely viewer. This is Totally Amazing here, the home of scientific knowledge, discovery, truth, research and safety since the 1st of January 2019. And today, what we have is a small experiment by popular request from two good friends of mine, and the request was to do with this rather failed kind of dangerous little horrible confirmed eradication device, as we can see the CE markings on the back. Now, what this is one of these dangerous, nasty little travel adapters, and I'm going to highlight now with an experiment. Sorry about how filthy my fingers are. I've been busy doing other things. This is the reason why you do not want to be purchasing one of these. Here we have a simple experiment that we have set up. Let me explain, and just before we do, there are numerous products that we can use that are manufactured by a company called Fluke that will enable us to perform these experiments. The first one is a continuity tester, and it's also a voltage detector as well. I've just sort of knocked the end off of that, just put that back away. This is the Fluke T90, and it's used for continuity testing and voltage testing. We can use that if we so wished. With me, I keep knocking the end off of that. Then we also have the Fluke 117 multimeter, which also has continuity function on there. And of course, we have a Fluke 1652C, a multi-function tester, which is also has the facility for continuity testing, amongst other things as well. But we are not going to be using the former two, well, the continuity tester or the function tester. We're going to be using the Fluke 117C True RMS multimeter. And there's our safety signs there. And then afterwards, after we've done this simple test, we're going to look at some basic mathematics, and I'm sure there'll be a little competition for you, and we'll proceed to closing. So let's just go over the experiment. What we have is a socket outlet in the UK that you would typically find. This is available in most houses and businesses on a 240 volt supply. We have some cabling which goes into a block connector, and that block connector will simulate our incoming supply. The rear end of this block connector, I've already taken the liberty to screw in one of the test probes for our altimeter that goes to a negative. The positive side is what we're going to hold, and as you can see, the continuity testing will confirm whether or not, if it beeps, basically the way that continuity is, it will confirm that there is a complete circuit. We can do this on the block connector by doing that, and the beeping means there's a continuous circuit. Let's zoom in and show you why this horrendous little thing is so dangerous and why you should never use it. And as always, just before we do, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, bang the bell, so then you know when I put out another video. That we'll be keeping. Here in the UK, it's a legal requirement that all sockets and adapters have shutters, and you can see the shutters clearly. We can poke those open if we so wished, but we should not be doing that. But those shutters are there, meaning nobody can go putting fingers or things similar to other body parts in there. However, with this horrible little device, This is why you do never purchase these, because there are no shutters, and as you can see, look at that glistening away. That's going to look rather attractive for a young child or someone with an attention problem, and they might be tempted to go putting something in there. So as we see, clearly here, no continuity and nothing beeping. Let's begin. Now I will start by saying as well that I know that this cabling I've attached here is only 1mm squared and not the 2.5mm as it should be. So before anybody comments on that, we know this, but I don't actually have any 2.5mm here, not available anyway. So we're just using 1mm squared, which is only rated for around 10 amps anyway, which is only suitable for lighting circuits. 2.5mm is rated for obviously radials, and that's for 20 amps. And of course, if you had a ring final circuit, that's for 32. That's also relevant because this thing does not have a fuse in here, so potentially what you now have is, instead of limited to 13 amps, you now could have 20 or even 32 amps coming out of that, which is a problem. Let's show you now why this is so dangerous. Let's just try and force this in. I did this earlier. There we go. Forced it in. Let's just reset our meter. So obviously all our switches are on, as you can see. Zoom in slightly more. There we are, and now you can see that our circuit is obviously switched on. Our meter is connected, so we can go ahead and set to continuity. This is why this is so dangerous, because we have shutters here, no beeping. Oh dear. That means that beeping means potentially you're dead. However, that's not the end of the story. Let me show you why. You see, somebody who is sort of kind of silly enough, who thinks that there's something stuck in there and doesn't realise that that's plugged in, or who's just kind of found one of these lying around, would be tempted to do something like that with horribly disastrous consequences. What this is a screwdriver now sticking out the front of that horrible, dangerous adapter. Let's see what happens now. Do I get continuity across this? If it does, then it means, unfortunately, if you touch this, you are dead. Clearly we do. And that has a resistance of around 2 ohms. Let's just turn the light on. Hold that still. That basically means you are dead. Let's just zoom in further and show you more about this. As you can see, let's just pull our meter forward a little bit and move our light away. So here we have, somebody has managed to stick a screwdriver in there. There's definitely continuity across that. I think that's sort of slipped a little bit, so we'll just kind of hold it there. 1 ohm now. So you, if theoretically you did that, you would be hanging on the end of that, wondering what happened, wouldn't you? Now, this is particularly dangerous because on some older houses that don't have RCD protection or circuit protection devices, and if they only have the older type of the cartridge fuses, then potentially you will not have the supply disconnect, and this is why this is a huge problem. Because if somebody was to do that, then they clamp and they lock. That basically means they now can't let go. And then they would have, theoretically, the whole supply coming through, and they'd be constantly getting shocked until either, they were disconnected that way, or they end up dead. Now, there is another test that we could do, but I'm not willing to do this for obvious reasons, and that would be to hold the screwdriver here and with wet hands and a small voltage to see whether or not we could pass a current over our body. I'm not willing to do that because that would just be too dangerous, and you'd be putting an electrical current across your heart. But this highlights the problem anyway, as we said, because if that's shoved in there like so, and you've got continuity. Now theoretically, if you had hold of that and then you touch something else and you manage to earth yourself somewhere, then basically you're dead. It's as simple as that. This is why you do not want to be ever purchasing one of those. Now also, these, as I said, do not have fuses in them, so there's no way of being able to limit any current flow across there, meaning you're going to get the whole lot of that going into you, and you'll be hanging on the end of that wondering what happened. Or worse, which brings me to a simple bit of mathematics for you. Now, let's just sort of disconnect this a little bit, and we'll get to the simple maths, which I trust you'll find nice and easy to digest, and where our little competition will come in. Let's just pull this off and just get rid of that. In fact, I'll just leave that, just disconnect that for now. I've got to put those cover ends back on my meter, or the meter probes, so we'll go ahead and do that in a moment. I've just put the box down somewhere actually that they're in, so we'll do that in a bit. But let's get to some simple maths that you will find easier to digest. Are you ready? Let's go. So, a wired socket outlet. Okay, let's have a look at the maths. This is so easy, no complications here. I'm sure you'll understand where we're going. Socket outlet plus dangerous travel adapter equals, unfortunately, what did I do with that? Equals that, basically put, and we can just stick that in there. That just basically summarises it, and as you can see, he's sort of missing a nose and he's had his eyes blown out. I don't really think this requires much more of an explanation. This is why you do not ever purchase one of those, and if you have it, I strongly suggest you get rid of it immediately by either destroying it somehow with a hammer or send it to me. I've just found also my box for my probes, so we'll go ahead and put those back on, because obviously that is a also requirement that we do have these on. In fact, I've actually put the wrong ones on my other probes because they're here. One of them is anyway. Actually, yes, I've put the wrong one in, so we'll need to deal with that now. So that's one. And, I clearly haven't actually prepared this properly, so we just need to fetch that other probe out. Actually, I think I can do it this way. should stop coming out for some reason. I now actually have that stuck, which is not very good. I do actually need to get that out. And, really should not have done that, I don't think. Let's try thin used pliers. See if we can grab hold of the end of that and try and pull it off. Actually have the thing stuck. So it's completely, that's stuck in there now. So I think off camera I'm going to have to try and deal with that. That's my idiotic fault. But see, it's a general requirement that your probes should not be exposed at all any more than is necessary. So we'll do that in a moment. But just to recap, let's just go over the maths one more time. Let's just move all this out of the way. Again, socket outlet plus offensively dangerous travel adapter equals the end of you or whoever. Now, if in the event that somebody was to go through that situation, it's important not to come into contact with them directly if they're still attached to a supply. You can disconnect them, obviously, by taking some insulated kind of material and cover your hands and try and smack that arm away from any supply, or failing that, go to wherever the supplies originated and safely disconnect it. However, the chances are if you've got a shock from that, I think this guy here requires a little bit more than your average first aid, which is why he earns the silly award of the Danger High Voltage sticker. So the competition here anyway, we need a suitable name for this guy. Let's just put this in his mouth. It's quite fitting. Rather, possibly, if it will fit. No. Will it? Won't it? It's probably not going to. Something like that. So we actually need a name for this guy. So the competition there is give this guy a name, and if it's the best, you'll win a prize. So that's how that is basically. Avoid purchasing one of these unless you want to end up like this poor dude. So give the dude a name. Obviously he's missing some eyes and a nose. And I think that, as we said, once you get to that sort of stage, I think first aid is probably out the window. So let's just zoom out. So there we are, dear viewer. I'm having an afternoon beer. This is the reason why you do not purchase one of those. And in another episode, what we're going to do is going to do another simple experiment where we will hook up 15 volts or something, maybe over 10 amps, and we'll see basically what will happen with that in a real demonstration. But I certainly do not feel ever comfortable with putting any sort of kind of higher voltage, above 20 or so, across that. And I certainly, as earlier on, my disclaimer is, if you're going to try experiments like that, you know, where I mentioned about seeing if a current will, or if you can get continuity over your body, don't do that, unless, of course, you are certified, like I am, or certifiably insane, or qualified, or have a medical team on standby. In fact, I think we probably won't bother with that sort of experiment. We will, however, try and put some voltage across this and do what we've done, just to demonstrate further the issues with this. Also, in another video, we will dismantle that and have a further look. That will be in part 3 of that thing. we'll be seeing more of this dude here, so as we said, give this guy a name, and the best comment wins a prize and will be featured on my videos a lot more. So until the next time, stay totally amazing. Don't do what I did. Don't buy those adapters if you want to look like me. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, bang the bell, and I'll see you soon, lovely viewer. Bye.